Hi everyone, Stepan here. Sorry for not recording the last few days, but it's been tough and tiring and a lot of chess. That's all I can say. It's been a tough tournament, just finished. Round 9 finished a few hours ago. And I'm going to go through the rest of the games from the tournament. To conclude the tournament, I think it didn't go well. I have a plus score rating wise. I earned 14 points, which is far less than it should have been. Didn't play well. I think I played much better in Gradište. I don't know why. Not sure really. With the black pieces I played horribly. All defeats with black. With white I played better, but today I managed to lose with white as well. All in all, I made some horrible blunders, some of them in side note, but most of them in the opening, which cannot happen really. Usually I'm well prepared for the opening and then end up making a mistake later on in the game, but here in Novi Sad it was different. I made a ton of opening mistakes, especially with black, which I'm definitely disappointed with. So, after round 4, I had 1.5 points. A plus score, so it went well. And in round 5 I faced a young Indian player, Jijo Joy. I'm sorry for the pronunciation for every opponent. And he drew 2 or 3 FIDE masters in the tournament. A friend of mine who is staying in the same flat for the tournament played him. He is 2250 and barely managed to beat him, so I knew that he was a strong player. Okay, he plays the Sicilian, so knight c6. He plays d6 as well sometimes. After knight c6 I'd prepared the Rossolimo attack. He played g6, and after taking on c6 he took with the d pawn, which I was happy to see. I was hoping this was going to happen. And now we get theory. He went for this maneuver of knight d7, knight f8, knight a6, which is common. And yeah, here I probed his king side a bit. h6 is a strange move, not really theoretical, so I went for knight h4, hoping to play f4 if he gives me time. So after knight h4 he has to play queen d8, because after f4 I lose my knight, so I have to bring the knight back. And now I didn't really lose the tempo because his queen is now back on d8, b6, solidifying his structure. That's what's usually played. And now he wants to play knight f8, knight e6, and either knight f4 or knight d4, more commonly knight d4. I played knight h2. Still not really sure whether I want to play f4, even though that's mainline theory. After knight f8 to play f4. Instead of that I wanted to cramp his position down and play against his bad bishops. So I went for a4, trying to expand on the queen side, and after knight e6 I went for knight e2. Now my plan was to simply capture on d4 when his knight jumps in, now reinforced with the knight, because otherwise if I take with my bishop he can take with the queen. Now if he jumps in, bishop takes, and he has to take with the pawn, closing the position even further down for his bishops. So he did play knight d4, and I waited for a moment because I wanted to get my knight to g3 if he allows me at some point after taking. So I prepared a queenside push as well, because I didn't see what he can do. For the moment after h6, which is a horrible move, he cannot castle. Usually when the pawn is on g7, on h7, I'm sorry, players with black castle, and then white plays bishop h6, exchanges the bishop. Now castling is impossible. So I played rook a to b1, didn't really know what he's going to do. He can play bishop e6, but that doesn't really do anything. And as expected, he started playing badly, g5, he wants to castle, and now this is what I was waiting for the position to completely close down for his bishop. So now bishop takes d4, c takes d4, and knight g3. My plan is simply knight h5, and I'm going to put tremendous pressure on his king side. There's no way for him to untangle. I'm defending against g4. He played queen f6, and now of course knight h5 doesn't win a piece. There's queen g6, but after queen g6 my position just becomes better. So knight h5, queen g6, queen e2, yeah, defending the knight, bishop e6, and now queen f3. And now he castled, and here I thought I was completely winning. The only plan he has is playing a6, and b5 and c5, c4. And I'm going to try to stop that with b3, and I'm going to have a weak pawn on d3 and the end of that, and an isolated pawn on a4. But I didn't really see how he can manage that in time. So I play g4, closing the position down completely. And now my plan is rook c1, knight f1, knight g3, knight g7, king g7, knight h5 check, and I'm going to dominate his queen on the f6 square. His queen is never going to get into the game. And that's exactly what happened. Rook fc8, rook fc1. c5, he went for his plan. I played b3 to stop him, at least for the moment, to force him to play a6, b5. a6, knight f1, b5, knight fg3, c4, and now knight g7, king g7, knight h5 check, king h8, bc4, bc4, and here's what I wanted to get, and I got it, a completely dominant position of my queen. He has to be extremely careful. If he tries to untangle his queen via, let's say, queen h7 or queen g8, then I immediately have queen f6 check, winning the e5 pawn. So now I play the prophylactic move, not allowing any counterplay, king g2. If his rook does come to the first rank, then I'm not going to have any problems. Whenever he takes, he can exchange the rook. So the next thing I wanted to do is get my rook from the c file to d1 and just defend everything. Rook a7 preparing to double, rook d1, and now rook a c7, rook b2. And I'm going to double up my rooks. There's one thing that should be noted. For the moment, rook b6 isn't possible, which seems like a really nice move. Otherwise, it seems really nice forcing him to defend and putting a lot of pressure because of bishop takes g4. And now if I, of course, take his queen, he's going to take mine with check, so it doesn't work. So rook b6 cannot be played. So I played rook b2, simply preparing to double my rooks, and then rook b6 is going to become possible because my rook isn't going to be hanging. cd3 as expected, rook c3 as expected, but that doesn't really do anything for the moment. Rook d to b1, he tried king g8, and now rook b6. I think his position is so busted here that it's completely unplayable. You can see that it's plus 3.4. He continued with king f8 and now knight f6. And how do you defend against knight f6? I'm threatening knight check here, I'm threatening knight here, attacking the rook. I'm threatening everything. He just doesn't. I might even take on e6 and then I have a discovered check. So it's really tough to defend. He played rook 3 to c6, rook takes, rook b8 check, rook c8, and now rook b6. I'm going to win something and he's just going to be busted. I mean, there's nothing in this position. He played a5 and now probably knight d7 check is good, winning e5. But I wanted to win the a5 pawn and just queen, so rook b5, king e7, and now, yeah, it was possible not to retreat the knight, I think, though I'm not sure. I played knight h5 just to play it safe, and after king d6, now I could have taken on e5 as well, but I took on a5. If I take on e5, he cannot take with the king because this is checkmate. But I took on a5, I want to queen my a pawn, rook c3, going for last tricks, knight g3, going for knight f5 check, and now bishop c4. Obviously I cannot take the bishop, my queen is hanging, and now I had a sweet choice between queen f5 and knight f5, and in the previous position after rook c3 I could have also taken here. So that was another thing, because once again it's hanging checkmate. But in this position I missed it. I was concentrating fully on checkmating him. Bishop c4, and now after queen f5 he cannot take, obviously. He has to move the queen, and then I'm going to take. If he moves the bishop, then I'm just going to take here, and I mean, it's going to be a lower, or I'm sorry, I'm going to take on e5. So let's say he moves the bishop, and now this is just over. But instead of that, I saw what I thought was a forcing variation, knight f5 check, king d7. We repeat it once, and now I play the move knight e7. After knight e7, the engine is going to find a draw, which is unbelievable. But us humans just, I mean, this move is almost impossible to find, in my opinion. Okay, so after I'm attacking the queen has to move. and he was in time trouble. We both were, but he had 1 minute left. And I was expecting the move queen b6, which is a human move, just attacking the rook. If the rook moves, knight hangs, the rook cannot move anywhere, so obviously if rook check, king takes knight. But there's a deadly move here, and that's queen f5. And after queen f5, he cannot take my rook. He takes the rook, knight c6, obviously. And now I'm threatening to take the bishop, and I'm also threatening checkmate. So his only move which I saw is bishop e6, defending checkmate, defending the bishop, threatening the rook again. But now queen f6, and I mean, it's just game over. After queen f6, he played rook c7, which loses. If he takes the rook, then once again this is double check, and game over. After rook c7, what he played, I still played knight d5, double check, and I'm going to win the queen. So this was round 5, a great game. Let me just show you the draw. Yeah, sorry, I almost forgot. So after knight e7, you can see that the engine says it's a draw after queen e6, which how is that a draw? I mean, and I have to play king h2. I just don't understand that. I mean, we were both in time trouble, but for this to be a draw, I just find it hardly believable. I mean, yeah, but I missed this as well, and I wanted to play a tricky move. I expected queen b6, he played queen b6. All in all, round 5 was a great game, and I had a plus score elo wise, and I was really happy. Now in round 6, I got humiliated so badly. I was so embarrassed after that game. Second game in the Caro-Kann, second defeat in the Caro-Kann, worse than the last one, which I lost on move 10, but at least I voluntarily sacrificed a piece. This was worse. So I'm playing a guy who never played e4. He plays the queen's pawn, or he plays some g3 systems. So we sit down at the board, he reaches for the d-pawn and plays e4. And I just don't know what to expect. So now after e4, I'm thinking to myself, did he prepare really well, or did he not prepare at all? So those were the two options. And obviously, if I think he prepared well, I'm going to play the Scandinavian. If I think he didn't prepare at all, I'm going to play the Caro-Kann. Thought for several minutes, and then ended up playing c6. d4, d5, f3. And now, if he prepared well, he's going to know that I usually take or play queen b6. So I decided to play e6. After e6, knight c3, the normal opening is bishop here, queen here, b6, bishop, no, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what white plays here, maybe bishop d2, and now bishop a6 for black. And the point is that you leave your knight on b8 to make sure you can play bishop a6 and get your dead knight out of, get your dead bishop out of c8. But I messed up the move order, didn't lose here yet, bishop e3, bishop b4, queen d3. Here you can see that if I turn on the engine, black is still fine, equal, perhaps slightly better after, yeah, bishop takes c3. But I ended up playing knight e7, now we have a3, bishop d6. I didn't want to play bishop h5 for some reason, I wanted to provoke e5. So this happened, and now f4. And here is where I blundered horribly. Now obviously I should just castle here. I'm not afraid of f5. I mean, nothing happens after f5. And obviously after knight f5 he plays bishop f2, which I saw, but I missed his next move. Bishop f2 threatening g4, and I calculated h5, but the problem is his next move almost wins the game, and after his next move I wanted to just resign. Queen h3, and I missed this. I was frustrated because I was out of my opening, losing another Caro-Kann, and didn't know what to do. And after this, I mean, bishop b6 trying to poke at d4, he just defends. And now I came up with g6, and after bishop d3, knight g7, the only way to stop all the threats. And now castles, and now I have to castle. I have to castle, otherwise I'm losing, but I went for activity, which lost the game in one move. try to tell me why c5 is bad. Obviously knight b5 and the knight is coming into d6, which I accepted, as I mean I'm losing anyway, might as well get some activity. But there's another problem after c5. I played c5, he plays knight b5, which I expected, and I wanted to castle. Now you can pause the video and tell me what white plays after castling. So if I castle, he's just going to play bishop h4, attacking my queen. The queen has no squares, and I have to play f6. He can just take on g6, and it's all over. So I ended up playing knight b8, knight check, king f8, knight g5, queen c7, rook and queen attacked, knight takes, rook g8, knight h8 check. No, he took first on g6, and I took here. Knight check here, queen, and I resigned, and I haven't been this crushed in ever, probably ever. So I want to forget about this game and learn from my mistakes and never play a variation which I don't normally play. Psychologically I lost, chess-wise I lost. Okay, next game. In round 7 I played a Mongolian player. She's 22 years old, Anu Bayar, 2100, a woman FIDE master. I prepared for a long time against her e5. I was going to play the gioco piano or the Deutsch Gambit. And the funny thing is, I prepared for the Deutsch Gambit for about 5 hours, getting into all the lines really deep. And on the board next to me, there's a guy sitting and he says, is Hanging Pawns your channel? And I say, yeah, and we talk about the channel for a minute. Then the game starts. She plays the Scandinavian, and on his board, he is also white next to me. The girl she was playing plays e5, they get into the Deutsch Gambit, and she blunders, takes with the knight. He beats her easily. After the game, I tell him, you're so lucky. I've played the Deutsch Gambit so many times, nobody ever took with the knight. And, I mean, that's just winning. And I said, where did you learn it? He said, your channel. So I think it's a funny story. It would have been even funnier if Anu Bayar had played e5 as well, because the Deutsch Gambit was almost inevitable. So 2 Gambit openings on boards next to each other, that would have been really fun. But anyway, after e4, she played d5, which she sometimes plays, and I was prepared for that. I played the knight f3 variation, and now obviously bishop g4, bishop e2 is what should be played, knight c6, c4, queen moves, castles, and whatever is the mainline theory. However, after knight f3, she played a6, which I've never seen and I'm sure is bad. d4, knight f6, c4, queen d8, another tempo lost, and now knight c3. I have so many tempi, and I'm so much better out of this opening that I was pretty convinced I was going to win this game out of the opening, but I have to say she played incredibly well. So bishop g4, played bishop e2, e6, and now my plan was to get my bishop to f4 to stop bishop d6, so here, to prevent knight h5. And now bishop d6, queen d2, castles, and here she played c5. And now I probably misjudged the position, but my idea was I'm going to play a3, b4, expand on the queen side, use my pawn majority and win. So I took on c5. However, in hindsight, rook a to d1 seems like a much better move, just leaving the tension in the position, and I'm still going to have my pawn majority if she takes and she doesn't have a way to push the pawn, so I could have done this at my own leisure. This would have been a much better option. There was another option, just taking here, queen takes, and then pushing the pawn, in which case I'm not sure what she does. If this happens, I think my passed pawn is really strong. But anyway, after c5 I just took, and I wanted to go for this variation. Bishop takes e5, queen takes, rook here. The knight has to develop to save the rook, and now a3. And now I just want to play b4, c5, and expand, chase her bishop away. And here she found a good move, knight d4. After knight d4, none of the variations which I was looking at work. So let's say knight takes, let's say bishop takes, let's say bishop takes, knight takes. After I'd played my move, I saw bishop c7 here, and yeah, this is good. And now, after here, if we exchange the bishops, then I'm going to be better. But she could have also played this, which probably results in a loss of the exchange at least. So bishop c7 was a great way to continue that variation. But I didn't see all of that before I'd made my move. What I saw was g4, forcing the knight to take on e2, knight takes, and now forcing bishop g6. And now I have time to play b4, and the bishop retreats. This is what I saw. And I thought that my queenside pawn majority is going to be great. Now I have to think of development, and I cannot allow knight e4, so I play knight c3. And here I had my first really long think in the game. She played knight e4, of course, and now it's tricky, because after knight takes, bishop takes, firstly the knight is hanging, secondly there's bishop c2, bishop d3, my pawn is hanging, everything is hanging. So I found a good move. I played knight d4. And now the most obvious move, bishop f6, doesn't really work because of bishop e3, and everything is defended. I have time to move my rook. Obviously, if e5 is played, then the knight just retreats, and the bishop is no longer on the diagonal. But after knight e4, she played a5, which is an incredibly good move. Now she's threatening pawn takes, rook takes, rook takes, rook takes, knight. If I move the knight, she's just going to win a pawn. If I move my rook, she's going to do the same thing, win the pawn. So it's tricky. So my second long thing here, and I found what I thought was a very good variation. I'm actually going to see what the engine says, because I didn't look at this game with the engine yet. Yeah, I figured I was worse, and I didn't play b takes a5. I played bishop c7, forcing a trade of pawns. So after rook c8, bishop a5, rook c4, and now luckily for me, I saw way ahead in my long think, and I saw that I can do this. Takes, and I saw that I have the move knight b3 here. Now bishop c2 doesn't work because of rook d7 attacking the bishop, and if the bishop moves off this diagonal, then it's going to be checkmate. I do, however, have to be careful when moving my rook from the first rank, because she has check, king here, checkmate, if I'm not careful. Okay, so bishop c2 doesn't work because of rook d7. For the same reason, rook c3 doesn't work, because now I can play rook d7 as well. And now the same variation which I just shown you, of course, doesn't work because of the knight. If she takes the knight, I'm going to take the bishop and threaten checkmate, so she doesn't have time to do anything. So she played bishop f6, which is an incredibly tricky move, but luckily for me, I'd calculated it already. So now if I move the knight, she's going to take on a3 and be winning. I found the only move that draws, and that's rook c7. She has to trade, otherwise it's checkmate. So here. And now I'm in an ending in which I'm suffering incredibly. So here, okay, now she's already much better. Bishop a5, I have to defend. King f8, king f1, king e7, knight d3. And I wanted to free up my bishop this way, because if she gets her king anywhere near my bishop, then b6 obviously wins the game. So I have to be careful, but I found a way to draw. King d6, and now king e2. Bishop c4 doesn't work. I'm just going to advance my king farther up the board. Bishop b3, and now simply knight back to c5. If she ever... she firstly has to move the bishop. Once she moves the bishop d5, if I do nothing and she approaches with her king, then I'm going to be in trouble because of b6. So I have to bring my knight back to d3. And here actually we were both in time trouble, and we ended up repeating the moves. After the game we analyzed briefly, but I don't think there's much here to be gained. Knight c5, bishop d5. Let's see, in fact. We both thought it was a draw, and yeah, it is a draw. Knight d3. Well, we didn't consider this move. But can't I just now get my bishop out? I didn't think that there was anything here. I'm going to analyze this ending in detail later on, but... well, apparently, yeah. Apparently this is losing with imprecise play. But yeah, we agreed to a draw, and she was under a minute, so it was really hard for her to find this continuation. If it doesn't seem human to me at all, this position after knight d3 to play e5 just seems strange. So yeah, in round 7 I drew a high rated opponent. Once again, a good result. I had a plus score, and then came the last 2 rounds, which, yeah, it's hard to show you these games. I actually considered not recording all of the games, but I didn't want to be unfair, and I need to show my draws. I wish show my defeats regardless of how hard it is. Okay, so round 8. Play the Caro-Kann, knight f3, knight f5, d5, knight c3. We get the 2 knights. And after e6, d3, which is uncommon, d4 is more common, knight d7, queen g3. And I thought I've never seen this move, but I have, but I definitely didn't know what I should be playing. I didn't know this variation. I ended up playing queen f6. And now in many positions, well, let's say queen c7, which looks like a normal move, bishop c5. And if takes, then obviously it doesn't work. Let's say bishop e3, takes here. I'm sorry, yeah, and now I can just play rook b8, and black should be fine. But after queen f6, he had an extremely long thing and ended up taking on d5, which I can agree with. If I take with the c pawn, then knight b5 is probably winning for white, so I take here. And now bishop g5, which surprised me because he is higher rated than me and he should have gone for the win, which he obviously has gone for the win, but exchanging queens is not such a good idea. Now I can play queen e6 check or queen e5 check. I didn't like my queen on e6. Really didn't. Developing his piece. At least let's get the queens off. And now he castled. I played f6, bishop d2 and castles. f4, knight g6, g3, bishop d6, all normal, h4. And here's my horrible mistake in this game. I actually spent about 15 minutes at this point. I don't think I'm any worse here. It's hard to develop, but I'm definitely not worse. It's not a Caro-Kann pawn structure. It's like a Petrov, symmetrical Petrov. And the correct move here is f5. And if she plays bishop a3, if he plays bishop h3, then knight g6. And I'm going to untangle. I mean, there's nothing here. There's absolutely nothing in this position. I'm just going to reroute my knight and be happy. Instead of that, I ended up playing h5, which is an incredibly bad move positionally. Bishop h3 check. And now the engine, unbelievably, and I saw this with an engine, says that king b8 is equal and king c7 is plus 1.5 for white. I ended up playing king c7. I obviously still don't know the reason for king b8 being that much better. King c7, knight e2 coming into d4, obviously. And now I need to untangle somehow. And he's going to check me on e6, so I need to play knight f8. Knight e4, knight f8, rook d1, a6. I want to play c5, chasing the knight away without allowing knight b5 check. Rook h2, doubling his rook, c5, knight check, takes, and now another bad move. And here I'm already losing, of course. Just played a horrible move. And I thought I was going to be able to create a fortress, but that didn't happen after a5, f5, doubling the rooks. Rook d7. If I try to defend with my h rook, then just bishop takes pawn, yeah, because my rook is hanging. So rook d7, bishop c3, d4, bishop a5 check, b6. There are no tricks with bishop takes b6. Everything is sufficiently defended, so bishop d2. And now rook g8, suffering, bishop g2, and now just another horrible decision. Perhaps I could have held on with just waiting. This is horribly losing, but it's not clear how, at least to me. It's +1, so perhaps I could hold this. After my next idea, g6, it's just all over. Rook f6. And now, yeah, rook g8, c3, dc3, bishop c3, and I cannot explain what I felt in my head losing the third Caro-Kann in a row. That's just, I mean, it's never happened before. I haven't lost 3 Caro-Kanns probably in the last year and a half. I don't know, might be lying, but I think that's true. So here, pause the video and find the worst move for black. That's what I played. Ended up playing rook b8, and now, if you haven't seen it yet, pause the video and white to play and win. This is like the tactics you get on chess.com or Lichess or wherever. Rook takes, and now game over. If I take, then obviously not bishop pinning the rook because I can defend, but simply rook takes, king takes, and bishop here. So game over. I don't want to talk about that game. I don't want to think about that game. What I have to do is work on my repertoire against the 2 knights, because, yeah, one good thing is that this tournament has shown so many weaknesses, both in my play and in my repertoire, that I almost don't want to play the tournament which starts tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm traveling to Senta, playing another tournament here, because I think I'm not ready. But I need to get out of that mindset, try to play as best I can in Senta, and just fight on. The last round is the most heartbreaking one. My opponent was 2000 something. All the games in the database he has played the Sicilian defense, and he plays the Caro-Kann. And my experience with the Caro-Kann this tournament made me feel so uneasy that I wanted to run away from the tournament hall and just, I don't know, not play at all. But I was on the white side. I had no idea what I was going to play. I play knight c3, e5, I play f3, I play knight f3, I play the exchange, I play the Panov, I play everything against the Caro-Kann. After a long think, I went for the exchange variation, and since I've been preparing against it as black for a long time, in the last few weeks, I figured I had great chances with white. He played the early queen c7, which is a possibility, knight f6, h3, stopping the development of the bishop, g6, knight f3, knight c6, queen e2, which is a weird move, bishop g7, castles, castles, rook e1, knight e7, he's going to push through e5, and now I remembered what I had in my game with black. I had the same situation. Bishop g5 was on the board, and after f6, which he did end up playing, my opponent had missed queen e6. It wasn't the exact same position, but similar to this one. So I figured if he goes for this, I'm going to play queen e6, and after king h8, I'm going to drop my my bishop here, here, here. And then I saw that it doesn't really work because of knight f6 and my queen is attacked. So obviously this has to be losing. Has to be losing. So I saw that after f6 I cannot play queen e6 only after I'd already played bishop g5, unfortunately. So now bishop h4, e5, and this is exactly the structure I had against Popovic, a player rated 2150 in Zadar Open, and I drew that game. d5, fe5, bishop g3, queen d8, bishop b5. This was my plan to untangle. Expected e4, and now bishop takes c6. If he takes on f3, that's not a tempo on the queen, he just loses everything. So white is winning. So he has to take with the b pawn, and now my plan was knight d4. If he takes, I'm really happy. For the moment I'm threatening a pawn and the exchange, so he has to do something. Queen f6. I played knight d2 developing, and now knight c5. He's going to jump into d3. Have no way to prevent that. I'm going to either lose my pawn or the exchange if I don't do something now. So now at least I wanted to prevent the move c5, so I played b5. Knight d3, rook b1. In hindsight, rook f1 was probably a better idea because I want to play f3 later on, opening up the position. But rook b1 played. And after queen g5, I found a way to save the position, and it's probably an unsound sacrifice, but yeah, try to find it. If you want to pause the video, find a sacrifice for white. So I ended up playing knight takes e4. Obviously he has to take, the queen is hanging, takes, and now queen takes. The knight is hanging, so bishop f5 is the only move. And now I was calculating knight f5, queen f5, queen check, but there's really no way to win the knight after all of that, so I just took a pawn and hoped for the best. And the best was him playing rook c8, which he did end up playing, rook ac8, and now I was really happy. The sacrifice is justified. I have 3 pawns for the piece and the initiative. Queen d5 check. He has to play rook h7 because I'm threatening knight e6. He blundered with king h8 and knight e6, and white now has to be better. White has to be much better here. He played queen f6, knight takes rook, queen takes knight, and now rook d1. This was the most complicated position in the game. I can either play rook f1 or rook d1. I have to do something because my a1 exchange is hanging if bishop takes c3. And what had to be calculated is rook c3 and bishop c3. Now, there are always tricks with rook takes knight, bishop takes, and getting my bishop onto this diagonal, sometimes even winning the queen. There are tons of variations here, and it was extremely complicated to calculate. He ended up taking with the rook, and now I simply play a3, h5, which is a waste of time, and rook a2. And here, after queen e7, I was sure I was winning. Rook a to d2. I have to be winning here. Queen e4 played. Have to decline the trade. Queen a5. Bishop d4. Getting his bishop from this diagonal is very risky. Just king f1. I want to play rook e2. Bishop b6, attacking my queen. Queen b5. And now queen d4 played. And if I turn on the engine, white has to be winning. White has to be completely winning here. So the move which I didn't play is queen e8, and after king h7, rook e2, rook c8, rook e7, check, king h6, something like this would be... He would have to play queen h8, and now simply h4, maybe rook f8, I don't know, queen c4, attacking the knight, and my attack is overwhelming. Instead of that, I played rook e2, which I didn't think was a bad move, king h7, and now queen e8. And after queen e8, he played rook c8, which is just a blunder. And I saw one variation, which I could have gone for. Queen f7 check, queen g7, rook e7. And he has to take, takes. When the king moves, I'm going to take the bishop, I'm going to take the knight, 2 pawns up, thank you very much, game over. And I saw that. But then I saw queen e7 check, queen g7, and then queen g5, threatening rook e7. But I missed something. What did I miss? Find a move with which black more than equalizes the position. Okay, the move is bishop d8, and I have to move my queen back. Rook c3, queen e8. Black is perhaps even better here, bishop f6. I played bishop d6. And here he blundered, queen b7, and pause the video, finds the win for white. I have to mention though, he had 2 minutes left, I had 2 minutes left. He might have been under 2 minutes. And so the next several moves are just blunders. White to play and win. Pause the video. Believe it or not, rook e7 check. And after bishop takes e7, I just play queen f7 check, king h6, bishop takes e7. And after bishop takes e7, if he tries rook c7, pinning my bishop and trying to win, because I cannot play rook e1, then simply bishop f8 check, king g5, h4 check, he cannot take, king f4 has to be played, and now bishop d6. Game over. After queen b7, I saw something, but I couldn't calculate everything in 1 minute, and I didn't want to risk losing my rook, which is irony, as you are going to see. So I played bishop e7. Now he was just crushingly winning. Black to play and win. Knight f4. Threatening my rook, threatening to take on g2 with checkmate, actually. Yeah. He missed that. Luckily for me, he ended up playing bishop g7, and now rook e3. Once again, a horrible threat of knight f4. Once again, and if rook f3, just, I mean, rook takes f3, g takes f3, and I'm going to lose the game. I'm going to lose everything. Missed again, but now we are already under a minute, both of us. After rook e3, he played queen a6. I play king g1, getting out of the pin. Queen c8. And now my final blunder, no, next to final, white to play and win. And this one is so incredibly easy that I cannot believe I've missed it, even though I was under a minute. Pause the video. Queen takes queen. Rook takes queen. Rook takes knight. And once again, 2 pawns up, game over. After queen c8, unfortunately, I missed it. I just missed it. Under a minute, I was so stressed that I couldn't see anything. Ended up playing queen a5, queen b5, which is horrible, and now knight f4. If I turn on the engine, the game is still a draw, and I can still fight on. I mean, let's say here, rook takes, let's say bishop takes. It should be a draw with correct play. It's really hard under time pressure, but it should be a draw. And after knight f4, I'm not even going to ask you to find my move, because that's blunder is inconceivable. Rook d7, just giving him a whole rook. Check. And game over. So I blame time pressure in this one. I was worse, definitely worse. Then I found the nice knight sacrifice, which was a semi-bluff. Then I was much better, got him into time trouble first, but then lost a lot of time thinking, and then unfortunately blundered. So that's the tournament. 9 rounds with definitely imperfect play in each. I would say my round 5 game in the Rossolimo Sicilian is the only good game I've played out of 9. That's really not good. I don't even care about the results at the moment. I wanted to earn rating points at the tournament, but I have to say I'm upset. Earned 14. Had I managed to win today, it would have been 30 something, but definitely undeserved. Really bad play. And I have about 24 hours until round 1 of Senta, and I'm going to use them. Well, I'm going to try to repair my repertoire, fill in the holes which are there, definitely. And I'm upset, I have to say, but not because of any single game, because of my play. I just didn't play well enough. I'm not sure what the reason is. I don't really have any excuses. I just played badly. And for any reason, perhaps a bad tournament happens every now and then. And it's fun to say that, funny to hear that it's a bad tournament when you're plus in rating points, but I'm definitely not happy. So yeah, see you tomorrow. I'm going to record my round 1 game in Senta immediately after the game, because I'm going to be alone in a hotel room. Here I was staying in a flat with 4 more people, so it was hard to record. So yeah, tomorrow I'm going to be playing somebody 23 or 2400. It's going to be a tough game, but I'm going to do my best. I have to say it's kind of calming to know that a new tournament is starting, so I'm leaving this bad one behind. But still, I'm talking rubbish. Had I won today, I would have been happy with a huge plus score. But yeah, blundering a rook is never a good thing. Please let me know what you think. Sorry for putting all 5 games into one video, but I really find it hard to record with so many people around, and there's always something going on, and I'm also tired and preparing all time. It's going to be much better in Senta. I'll try to record every day. Thank you very much. Please excuse my bad play this tournament. Any suggestions are really welcome. I would like to hear your opinions. You can, well, I've deserved it. Just tell me what you would have done in my positions. Highlight all of my mistakes. I'm going to spend another 10 or 20 days when I come back home analyzing these games in detail. I just have no time here. The schedule is so busy. Thank you very much, and stay tuned for more chess. Bye bye.